Hello people, this is Scott who's got animation, and I've written a Commodore 64 Sprite designer in BASIC. It's a pretty small program. I'm going to explain it, and let me zoom in on the screen here. About there probably, on the camera as usual. Okay. In it's version 7. It is okay. List it, make sure it's there. So as you can see, it's not too big. I'm gonna go ahead and run it, show you what it's done. Okay, so as you see, immediately the program ended and went back to the built-in screen editor, and I did that to conserve programming time, basically, in space, because the Commodore 64 has an excellent screen editor, so why not use it, right? So you can go in this, anywhere in this box you can create your sprite, and you can use any character except space. It recognizes space as the background character. So let's see, say we want to do this, create a kind of like a, do a quick face. I don't know how quickly I can do this. Not completely round, more like an elliptical oval, maybe. Let's see. Okay. Couple eyes. A grin. Okay, that's not bad. So now you can either just cursor down or do shift return, so you don't try to put something in memory, or as a program statement. So just cursor down basically, and you can go down here to go to 1100, and it will make that to a sprite. So hit return, and you can see it create a sprite from that screen data. And there it creates the data statements for that. So what you can do here is you can then put that in memory. It's 3 data statements. Okay, so those data statements is that happy face, basically. Oh, wait, let me rerun it. Alright, so I've already got a sprite, set of data statements for a sprite already created earlier and saved it in the program. Now, go to 1500 sprite from data. That's just basically like a test. That's a sprite I created inside the program, before. So if I delete that, line 2000, 2010, 2020. If I run this again and I say, okay, sprite from data, and there's our happy face. Okay, simple, fairly elegant. I'm gonna go through it, the code real quick. So yeah, I got some go-to statements to facilitate, when so you can just run it, and it'll come up with basically with instructions, and the box, that you can draw the sprite in. So line 20, that sets up that's where we're storing the sprite data, and we're using Sprite 7, which we're using code from the manual here. from a previous episode, you know. So let's see. All right, line 20. I'm sorry, that turns on sprite number 7. Line 30, that sets the address to 12288. That's out of the manual. Line 32, that's setting the expansion X, expansion Y, scale X, scale Y, whatever. You know, it doubles the size of the sprite basically. Line 32. Line 40 sets the position of the sprite horizontally and vertically. So poke 53262, that sets the horizontal position. Poke 53263, 100 sets the vertical position. Alright, now down here to line 1002, that's the S equals the address of where we're storing the sprite data for sprite 7. And then lines 1010 through all the way down to like 1050, that's basically just reading screen memory and converting that into bytes, basically turning the screen cells into bytes. Now let's list it and get some more. Now we're at 1050. Okay, now when it does that, it's also creating, well, after it does that, I'm sorry, then it creates the data statements, and you're going to have 3 lines of data statements, and that's it basically. Now when we first run the program, you'll notice that it goes to 1105. Alright, let's go to 1105, list it through. Well, let's do that again. Alright, so it clears the screen, and 1110, you know, on down here to 1160 basically just prints the instructions, prints the little, you know, the little boundary box to show you where you can create the sprite at. And let me get the rest of the program here on the screen. That's basically it. You know, down here 1500 displays the sprite from data, you know, from the data statement. So the first set of data statements it sees, it will read that, poke that into the memory for the sprite, and display it. And we're using sprite 7, like I said before. It's the same. I'm using the same sprite, you know, in the manual, in the sprite example, in the 64 users manual. They're using sprite 7, so that's what I went with. So it's a real simple sprite editor. Not very long, pretty easy. If you were programming back in the 1980s, you know what I'm talking about. You didn't have access to the internet. There was no World Wide Web. The internet existed, but it was only for colleges and, you know, government lab stuff, right? So if you were a regular person, you couldn't get in, basically. So, and yeah, you had magazines that would come out once a month, you know. So, and if you were lucky enough to live in a pretty big area, you had access to users groups. But for me, I get like a magazine once a month, maybe, you know, if I was lucky. And you know, you kind of had to just do stuff, you know, learn stuff over many months and years. You know, you're just trying to piece stuff together from any information you could gather, right? So that being said, there's the program. Pretty simple. Hope you like it. This is Scotty with Scotty Animation. I'm going to have another Commodore 64 video coming out a little bit later. I like programming on this thing. It's fun, and might try to do a game. Alright, so I'm going to sneak over here and end this video. See you. For more content, you can visit www.scottyanimation.com. There's a lot more stuff on there.